to my channel. It's been raining all day, and finally, as I'm starting this video, the sun is starting to finally peek out. So after I do this video, I'm going to step out, get some fresh air. Definitely been cooped up at home way too long, and it's time to step out. But in today's video, I'm going to show you a couple of my seedlings. I'm going to give you guys a 3-month update on where everything is. So today's December 5th. I repotted the Phalaenopsis right here on September 5th, so it's been 3 months since it's been repotted. I repotted it with an Oncidium Heaven Sent Sweet Baby, but I have a duplicate of that one and I've gifted it to my mom. This Vanda I got and kept it bare root, put it in a cup into water culture since the end of August. And these 3 seedlings here I repotted on September 11th. I put them into a self-watering semi-hydroponic setup. So it's been 3 months with these orchids, and I want to give an update so you can see how they're progressing since they're seedlings and I have them mostly in self-watering setups. But I am doing a longer-term study on a couple of orchids that I've transitioned recently to semi-hydroponics, and I am doing monthly updates, and I will upload a video in about 2 months so you guys can also see the progress. But I thought since these orchids don't have transparent containers, they're not the best fit, but you could sort of see the growth. So let's get a little bit closer and start with the Vanda. So this is the Vanda Banjong Sky Blue, and this orchid, it had 2 very long roots, and I had it in full water culture, and I had the tips of those roots. I had them touching a water reservoir at all times, and you can see right here that was one of the long roots, and unfortunately, after a couple of weeks, those roots died off. So it didn't like that so much. And then I realized that it was dehydrating the plant because the only 2 roots that were touching the water were basically rotten. So what I did was I cut those roots off since they rotted off. And then what I did was I changed the grow method from full water culture to semi-water culture. I've seen good results. As you can see, I've got a couple of roots that are starting to branch out. But this orchid likes semi-water culture a little bit better. And what I do is I soak this orchid. I started for a few hours, then expanded to 12 hours. Now I'll soak it for 24 hours in water within a nutrient solution. And then I will let it dry for 24 to 48 hours. I am experimenting with this and pushing the limits on how often I can keep it wet and how often I can keep it dry. But I find that semi-water culture, a wet-dry cycle, works very well for this orchid. It did not like staying wet all the time. So I'm going to keep this grow method and see how it goes. All right, moving on to my Phalaenopsis. This is my phal seedling. It's grown a brand new leaf, which is great. This orchid is also pushing out a nice new root out, which is super nice. It's probably going to be another 2 years or so before it starts blooming. I don't know if this is a full-size phal or a mini phal, but what I do is I don't keep the water reservoir full. It is obviously winter. I don't want to keep it I don't want to keep it too moist in there, but it's doing well. It's in sphagnum moss with a top layer of bark. And the whole self-watering is going to kick in the summer when it gets very hot and I can't keep up with the watering. I am tapering back the fertilizer since it's accumulating some salts at the very top, but this one's doing really well. Moving on to my Cattleya, this orchid is doing exceptionally well. So I've got this in Leca with a top layer of pebbles, and it's got a new growth here that's pushed out ever since I repotted 3 months ago, and then it's got another tiny little growth here. I'm going to take out some of these pebbles so you can see the root system, but this orchid, I can tell you that every couple of days it sucks up the water reservoir. The roots are really liking this, and I'm very surprised because for Cattleyas, I'm always told that they like wet, dry cycles. And I'll say that I do have a lot of Cattleyas in bark and a little bit of sphagnum moss, and the roots are just going insane. But it's really liking this grow method as well. I find that these orchids adapt very well to semi-hydro, and I'm very impressed with it. So you could see a little bit closer here that roots are branching out all over the place. I wish this pot were transparent so you could see exactly how many roots are in there. but just based on how it's drinking up its water reservoir, how it's pushing out 2 new growths, this orchid's very happy here. I think this is a grow method that I'm going to continue to explore for the rest of my Cattleyas. I really enjoy these seedlings because they're so rewarding to grow. I'm looking forward to seeing what the blooms look like. And there's nothing really quite like growing an orchid from seedling, which is so nice. This one is the Brasileia Cattleya George King crossed with Wine King Koseki. So we'll see what that looks like in a few years. It's going to take a lot of patience. Alrighty, moving on to the Dendrobiums. This one is a phal. This one is called the Dendrobium Golden Brown crossed with Dendrobium Tenate Blue. This orchid has gotten a little bit taller. The canes are starting to mature a little bit. It's still quite small, but let me show you the root system here. When I first got this orchid, it did not have too many roots, so I'm going to be very careful as I'm taking off some of these top pebbles. And as you can see here, let me see if I can get you a little bit closer, it's got a new growth coming in. It's very tiny, but that's a great sign that this is doing well here, and it's pushed out some new roots. So I'm going to be super careful here since, again, this orchid did not have a ton of roots when I first put it in here, but it's been here for 3 months, and so far I find that it's establishing quite well. And we'll see what this looks like. I really like phals, and I am looking forward to seeing how this matures. Now, about 2 months ago, I noticed it developed a couple of black spots, and I sprayed it down with hydrogen peroxide, and it stopped. But that's something that I'm constantly keeping an eye on. I don't want it to have any issues. Now, let's move on to the next Dendrobium. So this Dendrobium is... This one is the Dendrobium Lemon Pink crossed with the Dendrobium Hollywood. And this one, I've had a couple of issues with it because it has had spider mites actually. So I noticed it in the first month that I repotted it. I noticed some spider mites under the leaves. There's a little bit of evidence there that they were chewing away at the tender leaves of this orchid, but I had sprayed it with neem oil and it got rid of them. I only needed to spray once and they were completely gone, but that was unfortunate. Thankfully it didn't spread to my other orchids, but it did chew up a lot of the undersides of the leaves. I think you could see it there, you could see the damage a little bit behind the leaves. It also had a little bit of a leaf tip die off a bit. It stopped, but that's something that I was also looking at. So I was a little bit worried about the adjustment for this one just because if it has some pests, if the leaf is dying back a little bit, that's obviously not a good sign. It shows that the plant is a little bit weak, but so far it's doing fine. Once again, with this Dendrobium, the root system wasn't super extensive. So I'm taking off some of the pebbles to see if we could take a look at the root system. I do regret putting these in pots that you can't really see the root system too well. A transparent pot would have been best, but I like the look and the aesthetic of this one. Otherwise, I'm not seeing too much. I do think it is growing in here. Just sort of hard to verify, and I don't want to disturb it too much. But we'll see what this cross looks like. I have not found any pictures of this online, so we'll see how this does. I think it needs more time. It's not super established. I don't think that the spider mites help this whatsoever. But I'll put a picture of the before and after so you can see the progress of this orchid and all of the other orchids. But in general, I just think I need more time with this orchid. And anyway, guys, this is a 3-month update. I think by far the Cattleya is doing the best. Look at that new growth coming in. Everything's growing in nice and strong. The Dendrobium to the left is also doing nicely. The canes are getting a little bit taller, which is wonderful. And I'm truly looking forward to seeing how it does. Now, something to keep in mind with this self-watering Leca grow system is that it is quite susceptible to algae, and I've been cleaning the pots monthly just because it gets green. I'm just trying to show you what it looks like. It's something that, here we go, here's one example. It's something that I'm getting used to. I normally grow with bark, than sphagnum moss, and I don't see algae very much, but some days all of the water is just completely green and it looks a little bit slimy. So something to keep in mind when you grow with this grow system. Completely normal. So that's my 3-month update for my self-watering and water culture seedlings. I like the Vanda. It's doing super well with the wet-dry cycles. I don't think water culture is best for this Vanda in particular. I just found that it wasn't great for the roots. So I'll keep experimenting with it and see how far I can go. This Dendrobium here is probably the slowest one to adapt. It's a little bit weaker. It had spider mites, but we'll see what happens. So that's pretty much it. I'll keep you guys updated on my seedlings. If you like this video, give it a like and subscribe to my channel for more orchid updates. And thank you so much for watching, everyone. Bye!